it's like the dark side and the light side. You know what I mean? Like give in to your feelings. Start Munsoning.
Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 42-20 win over Florida in the 2022 edition of the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. As always, remember to check out store.mygodapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at My God a Podcast. Finally, we'd love for you to check out our presenting sponsor, Oxia Time, at oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. I really hope the recording started right before you said that.
Did it? Is it? Are we recording?
We are recording, but I'm not sure I caught that or not. Because that would be a hell of a the cold open right at the actual beginning.
I mean, even ESPN is saying stop about this game, guys. This is ridiculous.
Oh man, yeah. So that's like the note, because I feel like Josh made a comment, kind of a joke about like, you know, our
conversation already in progress.
Right, like that is real. And that.
Yeah, dude. We get on and we talk a little bit, and then we're like, oh yeah, let's start recording, which is exactly what happened today.
Dude, funny. All right, I don't have a bourbon, but what do you have? What was that?
I've got Knob Creek 9, Old Faithful.
Excellent. Yeah, I've just got some water tonight.
I've also got water too, a heavy dose of it. Probably not going to get four bourbons deep enough to say something stupid like Florida's defense is good, like I did on the last episode. Sorry, dear listener. I don't know why I said that.
Too funny. Well, I guess so. I don't know. Like, I feel like I've been kind of all over the place this weekend. Like, I know since we've talked. So let's see. So you went to the Symphony on Thursday night for your anniversary night out, right?
We did. We went to see Amos Lee at the Atlanta Symphony. Yep, which was pretty cool.
Excellent. And then something I had forgotten to mention when we recorded was I went to the Greta Van Fleet concert in Charlotte Friday night, which that was a blast. Sorry for the text from there. I was having a good time. They're really good. Highly recommend them. They put on a good show.
There's a swath of people Googling it right now. Who the heck is that?
Yeah. Who? Yeah, they're really good. So that was fun. And then let's see, for you. So how did soccer go? I'm trying to remember. I know you told me, or at least I know like who they were playing and everything. Carter.
Oh yeah, we went down to Henry County. Yeah, they blasted some team down south. Okay. It was like 5-0. They had a good game. Then we went back, and on the way back, I took the kids to a unique experience. Took them to Truett's Grill, which is a version of Chick-fil-A that not many people have access to. So,
gotcha. Nice.
Yeah, they have pimento cheese sauce, which is phenomenal.
Nice. Yeah, the pictures you sent looked pretty good. That was cool.
Yeah.
So were you back? Were you home? For kickoff?
We listened. We were in the car. I had to stop. I had two of my daughters got sick, and so I had to stop at Target on the way home to get some popsicles and medicine stuff for my flu kids. The flu is going around. I mentioned this. Oh yeah. I think I mentioned it on the text thread like a day or so before. I was like, I didn't realize this, but there's been like multiple high schools in the metro area that have had to cancel their games. Multiple high school football teams that have had to cancel their games because of so many kids are sick with the flu. So watch that space, because let me tell you something. I mentioned it, and then literally my kids got home that day, and two of them were sick.
Yeah.
So I should have had Jim knock on wood.
Well, I just did it. I just did it just now for our purposes.
For our purposes. Whatever goes on in Knoxville, I don't care. Like they can just intermingle. Maybe we should send some people up there.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, the flu's going around and it's brutal. So I had to stop, and so part of the stopping led to me missing a portion of the first half. But I was listening to Scott Howard, which was nice. Carter was really frustrated because he's not used to listening to the radio. He's like, "Can I just watch on ESPN?" I was like, "No."
We listened to the radio like they did in the olden times.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
And then I came back and watched the rest of the first half from the house. Had a few beers and waited to see like how it was going to go, because I knew I was walking into a bit of a lion's den at a fall festival party with my workout group. Some of them are not too kind to the Georgia folks in terms of just making fun of if things go bad. So I didn't want to go. I wasn't going to go if we were really struggling. But when we were up 28-3, I felt I was in a safe space. But
you thought you were safe.
I should have stayed. It's my fault. We ended up getting into a hole in the third quarter. I left. I changed my shoes. Like all the things. It was my fault. It's totally my fault.
That's hilarious. I think my sister texted me. I think she changed her shirt like twice. She changed it once, it didn't work, and then she changed it again, and then things turned around. I stayed steadfast with what I had going on, so we kept it just the same. So yeah. I did the multi TV setup on the porch, and we ended up getting a fire going in the second half because it got a little chilly. But it was nice. It was nice.
It did get a little chilly. Yeah, it's definitely that time of year.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can talk about the game itself. So
I guess so.
Yeah. I mean, it was a tale of. I was starting to say it was a tale of two halves, but I guess it was kind of a tale of three quarters versus one quarter. Yeah, I think that's probably a better way to say it. I mean, the first half was. It was what we expected to happen. Right? Like that's how we kind of, I don't know. That was probably even more so. More. Right? Yeah. Okay.
It was more so because, you felt like that. I feel like that at halftime, when I was packing up to leave, like we had a little chili cook-off situation. So I had been cooking chili all day too. So when I was packing up, I was like, man, we're only winning 28-3. It felt like it should have been like 30-0. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or 40-0 or whatever. Like it felt like that we left points on the field because of, some of the things that went on. But like, it felt like it was like, golly, is this stadium going to be empty at halftime? Like, is this a name your score game? Like what's going on? I know.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's the weird thing about this game to me is,
yeah,
I don't know. So just like kind of like some macro sense things, right? Like if you look at like our score predictions, by the way, first off, like we're pretty. I mean, you were only 3 points off. Like you picked our score, so you had 42-17, and we won 42-20. So score wise, It actually went like basically exactly how you predicted. I had 35-17. But the funny thing to me is like you actually in the preview at one point you were like, okay, so like what would it take for Florida to be in this game? And it was basically like all of these things go wrong, right? And like those things actually happened like in the third quarter. Like, throughout the game, I guess, right? I mean, we had 3 turnovers, right? We had what, 2 picks and the fumble. And so it's like all these things those things all went wrong. We had a busted coverage that led to a touchdown. Like that much went wrong, and we still ended up doing that to them in the end. I mean, like, I know you like to look at the ESPN, like win probability or whatever. Like there was a bit of a blip right there in the third quarter, but that was it. Otherwise it was pretty much another fairly horizontal line, like not at 100%, but it didn't move a lot.
I think the lowest win probability was 90%. And that was when it was, first and 10 at the UGA 33 when it was 28-20.
Yeah. So, that's the kind of macro thing overall to me that was interesting, is that kind of like what could go wrong actually did go wrong. And we still, at the end of the day, won by 22 points.
If we played this game like 8 years ago or like 9-10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's a backhanded way of going into, if this was in the Mark Richt era, the later Mark Richt era teams, we probably lose that game. It felt like a game that like I feel like that the way that the quarter went, and this is reciprocated by some guys that were around me, some of which I knew, and a couple of the people, like, they weren't really with the workout group; they were with some friends of the hosts.
Okay.
But they were there. Like, I remember at one point when it was 28-20, people started walking over. Like, clearly they weren't as serious. I was the only one that was glued to the TV. I was like, I'm
Right.
not going anywhere.
Right.
And they like had wandered off and were partying and whatnot. And like, then they came back and like, oh my God, it's 28-20. What happened? It's like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Anyway,
Yeah.
but you know, they were just like, it was that one quarter, man. It was just that one quarter. And it felt like at that point when I was surrounded by people that were asking a bunch of questions, like there were some people that were talking about, we need to pull Carson Beck. We need to pull Carson Beck into this game. Like,
Right.
I started rolling my eyes. I was like, I mean, I hear you, but like, no, I don't think we're at that point yet. Like, it
Right.
doesn't, like, this game doesn't, I don't know. Part of me was like listening. I was like, yeah, like the Munsoning ending. It's like the dark side and the light side. You know what I mean? Like, give in to your feelings. Start Munsoning. But then luckily the cannonball that is Dejan Edwards, it ended all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was definitely like a part of me that wanted to like start freaking out about this. I think one of the guys came over and was like, "Are we on suicide watch yet?" And I was like, "No, we're not yet." Because you erase some of those mistakes, and I do feel like I hand to God, hand on the Bible, whatever. Like, if we don't fumble the ball on the 20-yard line, if we don't throw an interception in our own half, if I mean, we had a busted play, which that's kind of where, like, that was like one of those touchdowns that I kind of expected in garbage time kind of thing.
The long one down the sideline for Florida.
Yeah. Like that's the kind of touchdown that I kind of expected in garbage time, where it was like, whatever.
Right.
But it ended up being like, oh crap! Like, let's get our proverbial together and figure this out, which kind of basically they did. And it was like, oh yeah, if we don't make mistakes, we can basically score at will with these guys. And that's how it ended. And we grounded out at the end and just said, you know what, we're out.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, and the busted coverage, like that play, gosh, I mean, I don't know.
Stark showed his youth, right? Like he bit on a play he had no business biting on, because even if he was there for the play, like it was covered. Like there wasn't a need for him to break. So there wasn't a need for him to sell out 100%.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. Got caught looking. And then, I mean, he almost
got a piece of it. Yeah.
He almost got back to it. Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know, like how athletic he is. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that did go right. I mean, like in the first half, we have to talk about the Brock Bowers touchdown.
Dude, I'll never forget the slow motion of that touchdown. Like when they replayed the slow motion, like literally the guy was like turning around and the ball was just spinning on his head.
It was, I mean, I feel like I still can't believe it. And like the one of the really cool things was the way how like Brock went from like looking over his right shoulder and then he like pivoted to look over his left shoulder to get it, and then like did a whole 360. I don't know, I guess like the athleticism to do that, find the ball, catch it, and then keep his feet. Have you seen all the sideline shots too? Like, there's a good, like from one of the angles, you can see both like Carson Beck freak out, or just be like, oh my gosh. And then, Brock Vandegrift starts like going crazy. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah.
I haven't seen that. You have to send me the link.
Okay. I'll have to send that to you. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you basically, they only had 371 yards, and most of them came in the third quarter. We still had 500. We almost had 600 yards of offense, and still turned the ball over 3 times. Like, if you were to close your eyes and look at the turnovers, and look at the yardage, and you were to cover up the teams, maybe you get a little nervous.
Yeah. I mean, So the statistics were, I mean, you know, I'm pretty shocked that we held them to 100 yards rushing. Like that's really good against them to me. I think that was their net. Yeah, that was their net. I will say too, like that, the first play of the game, which I know you didn't see. I don't know if you've come back and watched it yet, but on that first play of the game, the hit that Bullard put on Richardson, which was a clean hit, by the way. The broadcast crew, you may not even know this, John. Like on TV, they initially were kind of like questioning the hit, like was it a late hit, was it a dirty hit? But that was like on the real full time, like full speed. And then when they went and looked at the replay, they're never mind. Like he was inbounds. He hit him fine. He hit him on his hip. But Richardson just took kind of an awkward step as he was falling, and so he didn't really run the ball at all in the first half. And I think in the second half, when that came back, it was a little bit more effective.
Well, I think that they just realized that they just weren't getting anything done, so they were trying to change it up a little bit, which frankly it worked a little bit. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I was surprised, and the broadcast crew. I think Gary said it over and over again. That they weren't using him to his strengths, kind of thing. Like I felt like that they mentioned it multiple times that he's not really he's not really a threat right now as a runner.
Yeah,
I don't know what they were doing, but
well, I think the speculation is it was because they said it wasn't, but it was. I think it was because that hit he took. I mean, he could barely walk. It looked like initially, like the next play after there, the next play of the game, like he handed the ball off and he just like stood there, like it looked really weird. So
I'll have to go back and check out that section because I did not hear anything about that. To be honest with you,
that was it was. I mean, it was literally. It wasn't the first play of the game because we had the ball first, but it was on their first snap. That's what happened. So,
got it.
Yeah. So I think that I think that kind of took his run game away for the first half, and who knows, for whatever reason they came back to it in the second half.
Yeah, how it impacted them,
right?
Because plus he took another hit later in the game too. After I think I can't remember who hit him, but there was another hit that he had where he was on the sideline and they were like massaging his knee.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, it looked weird, but yeah. But yeah, man. So sorry, I kind of took us on a tangent, but like I don't know, like this was definitely one where I feel like there's things that you would like feel in the game, and then you look at the statistics and you're like, and again, like I said, like we didn't cover, I guess, right? By half point, I think. But I mean, we won an SEC game against our rival by 22 points. So at the end of the day, that's where
Yep, Vegas knows, man. Vegas just knows. Which I guess we should seriously look at how the lines line up for this upcoming game,
right,
as an indication of what the reality should be. Because I mean, that said, Vegas knows. Did they know that Stetson was going to throw interceptions to keep the game the way that it was?
Right.
Did he know that Kenny McIntosh was going to uncharacteristically fumble the ball from getting tackled from behind? Did they know that Bear Alexander was going to have a roughing the passer call on third down that would have basically stopped all of this? Because if they had to punt the ball or I can't remember where the down and distance was there, but I think that they would have been fourth. I know it would have been fourth down, but
I think that was fourth down. I think they were going for it on fourth down, and that happened.
Was it they were going for it? Yeah. Well, whatever. Either way, you take that away, that was one of their scoring plays. I believe they ended up scoring on that drive.
On that drive, yeah, that was so frustrating because
it was so frustrating. Yeah, it took the wind out of our sails. I feel like a little bit, and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, and the whole thing was all we called timeout late. The whistle came late because of that. He didn't hear the whistle. He hit him. I mean, I can't really fault him. I mean, it's tough. Everything's flying around so fast. That was tough. That was just unlucky. But whatever. But yeah, to extend that drive by that play.
Yep.
But so I wanted to go back to Kenny McIntosh because they're really just about the backs. I feel like by the end of the game, something I had jotted down was I felt like Dajon Edwards has asserted himself as RB1. I think he's still not being out there on the first play of the game as a starter, but man, he just looks so good. But I did want to say about Kenny. I think something that I think we had texted about with some of the Dog Central guys was around just he looked hesitant early in the game. He wasn't getting upfield. He was kind of like waiting and juking and making moves. And that I think is why he got run down from behind and fumbled. After that play though, like he looked totally different to me. I mean, he was running the ball, he was getting upfield, he was running through tackles, like he was carrying guys. He looked like a different player. Like sometimes adversity happens and you can fold, and he didn't. Like he doubled down. It was like, I'm going to make up for that mistake, and he showed for it. Like I thought he looked the best as far as running the ball. I thought that's the best he's looked all season for the remaining game after that fumble.
Yeah, he was playing angry with his hair on fire.
Yeah, yeah. So I do feel like in the second half we probably could have just like run the ball the whole time, and I guess whatever, you had to keep him honest and stuff. But like we didn't really even need to throw. Run the dang ball.
I've got my run the dang ball hat on for a reason, Jim.
Nice. Seriously,
I think I said like I want to see us grind them into a powder, which I feel like that we were pretty close to it, if not there. Yeah, dude, I do think that if we'd have just continued to just grind them out, that it would have been, I would have loved to have seen us run a little bit more than we did.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like we didn't. I don't know. I mean, like I felt like then we certainly could have. I mean, we got to that point where it felt like they couldn't stop the run, and we were still passing. I don't know. Maybe that's me being an old man.
Yeah, right.
Those days are gone. And that's where I do get back to the, we still won by 22 points. Like, I guess it kind of is what it is. And I mean, we really controlled the game. That was after we had taken back control. I think some of that too was, still trying to extend the lead, et cetera. And then it didn't end up mattering so much anymore by the end. But
yeah, I mean, call me crazy, Jim, but when you have a running back with 12 carries for 106 yards, averaging 8.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, and I feel like he was busting off, a chunk. He was busting off chunk plays, which is part of the reason that he had the numbers that he did. Kenny McIntosh, 16 carries, 90 yards, 5.6 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, along of 15. Yeah. Like those are like you remember back in the day when we had like Nick Chubb, Gurley, like Sonny, when we would look at their average yards, like per rush, and they were sitting at like 5 and 6, and we were all sitting there like, oh my god, let's just give it to him every single time. Like they get 5 6 yards every play, like do it.
Right.
I mean, that's the kind of feel that this had, and that bears out in the stats. Like 8.8 yards per rush. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. I'll say Branson Robinson felt like he had more than 3.9 yards per carry, but I think he had a couple that he got stuffed on there at the end. So not really
I think he got stuffed, but he was also I think that he got a few first downs because of like some of his like hard-nosed running.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I guess just to stick with the offense too. I mean, I think this was wasn't this Brock Bowers' most receiving yards in the game, I think, ever too, because he had 154 yards receiving. I think that was a career high for him.
Is it insane that we're asking that question?
Right? Yeah, seriously. Yeah. You would think that would be number one. Also I will say too, like we did ask like where is Kearis? I thought he had a good game. I mean, he only had 2 catches for 28 yards, but I thought those were good. They were good, important catches. I feel like
that got called back.
I believe so. Because there was holding, I think, right?
Yeah, there was a huge play that I think that he had, and I remember thinking, I was like, "Golly, that was just a deflating penalty."
How about the this is a weird one. This is to me showing that I can disagree with the call that went our way. Like, I'm still surprised they called pass interference on Florida on that deep ball to Ladd. Like, if it was pass interference on anyone, it was probably on Ladd, like pushing off. I don't even know if you were watching when that play happened.
Yeah, I did see it.
Like, I'll take it all day. But that was interesting.
Yep, that was there was definitely some questionable calls from I think we were the beneficiaries of a pass interference late in the game too. They kind of extended a drive. Yeah, it was interesting across the board, the officiating, but yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the other note I had on the defensive side, to go back to the defense, it was good to see Jalen Carter back and playing, and he looked good. I think he made an impact very quickly. Like you noticed that he was there right
Mm-hmm.
away. And the downside, the not as good, not as warm and fuzzy is like the defense didn't look the same without Nolan Smith once he went down. Which I mean, I guess is to be expected. I mean, the guy's really good, obviously. So we'll see what's going on with him. Really hope he's able to go next week against Tennessee because we're gonna need him.
Agreed.
Let's see. You want to? I forgot to hit coaches, and we can go back into whatever, but I don't want to forget that
Yeah, let's
because
just go ahead and do it.
you've taken the lead. You've jumped out again. You went 7-1 in coaches over unders this week,
Excellent, excellent.
and then
What did I miss? What did I miss?
I would have to. It's whatever you did different from me. There's something that we went opposite on because I was perfect on offense, but that was it. I got the miscellaneous one wrong. I was over on defense and I missed the special teams. So you now lead 43 and 21. I'm 37 and 27. So, Coach, thank you for checking those for us. Appreciate it as always.
You'll love to see it. I'll take a 43-21 victory in this next game.
There we go. There we go. Nice. Oh man, what else? What else do you got?
Oh man.
I mean, do you want to talk about what we were talking about when we said should we record? Because we could talk about that.
What do you mean?
It was we were basically kind of back and forthing on Stetson.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I felt like he was off. I felt like that. I mean, some of the throws that he was making, like had he had I think it was pretty early in the game because it was in the first quarter, and it was had to have been before I started because I remember Scott Howard was the one that was talking about it, how it just went through the Florida Gators' hands. Like he should have had an interception very early in the game, which could have set the tone for that game, much differently. And there's a lot of like what woulda, coulda, shouldas or whatever. Like
Sure.
They came out and they took advantage of their opportunities in the third quarter, but like I never felt like that it was in doubt. Like you always felt like we were going to come back. It was kind of like the Missouri game, and I guess that's kind of where the ESPN stats bear out is that we didn't have any trouble moving the ball on these guys. Yes, we had drops. Yes, we had mistakes. Yes, we had a quarterback that wasn't perfect. Yes, we had running backs that were making plays. I did feel like that there were some times when we weren't playing perfect. Like Darnell, I think had one of his lowest graded games of the season. I think the right. I don't want to speak to it, but some of our offensive linemen had some of their worst graded games, but then some of them had better games than they've had historically. I think Tate Ratledge in particular was really good on running plays.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've struggled with. I'm really torn on the whole Stetson performance because on the one hand, he did such a great job, but there were like plays that didn't show up in the statistics column other than incomplete passes that were frustrating. Like overthrows, like Lad McConkey stopped running on a flea flicker. Like what's going on with Lad, man? I think that's a bigger issue than Stetson is just like the disappearance, the random disappearance of some key players. Like Darnell Washington had a drop, Lad McConkey had drops, Lad stopped running. So like I mean that's gotta mess with the Stetson to a certain degree.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think there was one. I think there was another play where Roseme that was running. Stetson threw it behind him.
Yeah,
Roseme's route didn't do him any favors.
Yeah, I know you're talking about that. Yeah, there was that. There was the one with Lad. Well, there was the two, right? So there was the flea flicker where he kind of stopped. There was the one where Stetson did hit him like in the numbers, and he dropped it. There was though, to your point though, there was one where like Darnell was wide open underneath, and he didn't throw it to him. So I agree. Like I'm not saying he was perfect either. And here's a good actually the numbers to what you were saying, right? So if you just look at Stetson's numbers in the first quarter, he was 8 of 10 for 121 yards. So it looks like, hey, that's dang near perfect. But to your point, one of those two incompletions really should have been a pick. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
was on the first drive. It was on the first or second. It was really early.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess that's fair. I suppose that's fair. But that, yeah, I don't know. What's this second quarter? Yeah, second quarter, Stetson was 8 of 19 for 141 yards and two touchdowns. So
Do we have the quarter breakdowns of the rushing attack? Like when did you know what I mean?
so for rushes, okay, so we do have the rushes by quarter.
The rush, yeah.
So first quarter, sorry, I lost my spot. Okay,
13 for 65.
yeah, 13 carries for 65 yards in the first quarter. Second quarter was 5 carries for 19 yards.
Yeah, so if I have to like, I think that this kind of speaks to something that you, Graham, and I were kind of debating. Was to me that statistically is pointing out exactly what you were concerned about, like going away from what's working.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So Stetson had his worst performance in the second quarter, and we had our least rushing output in the second quarter. And ironically, like the third quarter is what blew everything up, right? Like, so
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
did we put ourselves behind the eight ball to like set up for that? Like, had we just stuck with like the running plays? I don't know. Like these are the things like as we talk about looking forward, like what bothers you or what are you worried about? Like
Mhm.
I don't think anybody can rationally say that they're worried about anything, but I do, and it's been a consistent theme with some of the Georgia games. Is like our offensive coordinators decide to get cute or abandon what's working, or like I don't know, throw for balance sake or whatever. Like,
Yeah. That's where okay, so like in a game like this, it doesn't so much bother me. I guess in like in most games, but in a game where the next game, like that's the thing. That's something I'm going to be looking for. Not to preview Tennessee yet, but like just because in that game, all that matters is that you win. And I think in a game like this, frankly, like I mean, with where Florida is, I think honestly, like there could be some sense of what do you want to put on tape and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that stuff all goes out the window when you're playing a top 10 matchup. And this was not that, you know.
yeah,
So
fair.
so we'll see.
I guess my main takeaway there is like if Stetson is not getting things done, whether it be through his own fault, or the fault of his players, like at some point you have to pivot to what's working.
Mm-hmm.
And it did feel like that. Like there was it the second quarter or was it the third quarter? I feel like it was the second quarter when everybody on the text there was like, "Golly, we need to bench Lad," like because they just seem to be such frustration. And then like the next series or two series later, like he scores a touchdown, like
That was in the second quarter.
an amazing touchdown. Yeah,
Yeah, it was the second quarter. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I get it. Like it's literally splitting hairs, and it's this like the I feel like an absolute douchebag, like just criticizing the offensive play calling, but like.
Right. Right.
I sit there and I look at those numbers from the second quarter, and it's like, okay, everything was great. Like we had this huge lead at halftime. Like everybody probably felt like that they were the kings of the universe, but at the same time, like the way that we were running the ball the rest of the game, the way that we were running the ball in the beginning of the game, the second quarter was just a ghost. Like our running game just disappeared, and I don't really understand why.
Yep. Yep. I think that's fair. I think the one thing I will add, and I think this is one of the things Graham said back to me, and also this did get pointed out by Gary Danielson on the broadcast as well, was that you could see Kirby was getting frustrated with Stetson, it seemed at one point on some of the passes. And I think it seemed like it was along the lines of, it was like an RPO and Stetson took the pass option instead of the run option. I think Kirby was basically like, why didn't you just hand the ball off? And Stetson's like, it was there. Like the pass was there. Like that was the read. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do kind of deal. It seemed like there was some of that dynamic going. So like, and then I think Gary even made the joke, or somebody made the joke of like, all right, let's call a play that has no pass option. Let's just run the ball. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, so I do think like, again, if we're kind of looking for things to clean up in the next week, I felt like that there was definitely something going on with the communication. Like I think I felt like that Stetson was way more animated towards the sideline in this game than I've ever seen before. Whether it was just like he was either defending what he was doing or he was asking questions. Like he was throwing his hands up a few times. Like he was pointing and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that there was multiple times when he was like talking about it, he was pointing downfield, and like it was almost like he was like, "Man, the guys aren't doing what they're supposed to do," kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
I remember distinctly on the one that Ladd stopped running on,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean, if you go back and look at that, like I mean, I feel like that Ladd probably felt like there was no way he was going to get the ball because there were two guys around him,
He was double covered.
and he was double covered, and he had no leverage on his cornerback position. Like I don't know, I felt like that there was probably not a reason for him to continue running. So had the ball been on the money, he might have had a good opportunity of getting it intercepted. But Stetson was pissed, man. Like he was like God.
Yeah.
He was super frustrated, and he was very animated throughout the game. So I don't know. It's something to watch. Like it just felt like that there was maybe a communication problem, and I'd like to see that cleaned up.
Yeah. I hadn't even really thought about it that way until you said it like that. So I would agree on the animation towards the sideline. Interesting.
I mean, right? Like I don't know.
No, he
I mean,
was. You're right.
I felt like I don't know. Maybe he's always been that way, and they just happen to catch these moments in this game with the CBS crew or whatever. But like even on that Brock Bowers touchdown, I feel like every time they go to zoom in on Stetson, like what's he doing? And it's like, and we got that beautiful gif of him like pointing at the sideline, like ah.
Yeah, that was good.
It's like he was carrying on a conversation with someone on the sideline the whole time.
Right. Yeah, seriously. So since you mentioned that, we do have to bring up the like we were dying laughing at everyone like tagging the podcast and GIF requesting again. So we had the BMF, to prevent the number of sorry Carters, the boom MFer from Kirby on I don't know, one of the second to last touchdown, I believe. Further proving our thought that Kirby hates these guys.
Exactly. He's a little bit of Muschamp was in his mind that day, that moment.
That's awesome. All right. Well, before we move any further, I did just want to take a quick moment to remind everyone that season 3 of My God About podcast is presented by OxyTime. So OxyTime is a custom watch company. And if you want to commemorate the Georgia Bulldogs 2021 National Championship in style, you've got to check out their Georgia National Championship timepieces. If you'd like to do that, head on over to oxiatime.com. That's AXIATIME.com. And if you use code MyGottaPodcast at checkout, you can get 10% off of one of these timepieces. John and I both have one. We're definitely loving them. I had never had a self-winding watch like this before personally, and having one with the Georgia logo on it, officially licensed, and the 2021 champions, it's pretty cool. So definitely head over there and check these guys out.
Yeah, and having the engraving is also a nice touch as well. It's just
very true.
It just means more, Jim.
Awesome. All right, what else do you have to wrap up on this one? Oh, actually, I did. There was one other moment that I thought of, and this was actually the interaction that we ended up having with Brandon Adams on Twitter, the Brenton Cox moment. So I thought that was interesting, and I've watched it back more. So this is on the last touchdown of the game. So it's the Kenny McIntosh touchdown. Brenton Cox kind of actually came back into play, and he was the guy that was holding on to Kenny. But then Broderick Jones basically came in and like helped kind of push Kenny into the end zone.
Push him over the line, yeah.
Yeah, and then like right after they got in, Cox pushed someone. I think he pushed McIntosh away from him or something.
Yeah.
Which then, I mean, like Kenny, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what Kenny was pointing at. I hope he was pointing at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was interesting because you always wonder with these guys, like I think a lot of people tend to downplay and downplay things like, oh, like they used to play together, like so they're friends, all this kind of stuff. And I'm always kind of curious. I thought that was kind of telling, especially as vocal as he's been on social media. That was
Yeah.
telling to me. That told me something.
Yeah. And the thing that surprised me is that he didn't get a flag afterwards because it looked like he took a punch at.
Mm.
I'm not sure who it was. Was it Mims? I can't remember. But
No, it wasn't. Unfortunately, Mims was out at that point. I'm
Mims
pretty
was
sure it was
hurt.
Broderick Jones. I mean, he was the one
Broderick
who was.
Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it looked like he took a swing at him. I think that might be something the SEC office maybe takes a look at. But yeah, man, it looked like he whirled around and like took a swing at him. Did you? I don't know if you saw that.
No, like I was saying, I kind of want to take another look at it. I have, which in general, I have not like rewatched the game yet. So
Someone posted it on Twitter. It was like a wider angle view of it, where you see Brenton Cox kind of like just push him, and then you see them jawing each other, and Kenny McIntosh pointing at him, and then Broderick Jones just comes in and kind of gives him a little love tap away. I don't know that it was necessarily malicious or like in. It just I felt like his momentum just kind of carried him into him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you saw Brenton Cox just turn around and just kind of swipe at his helmet, and he could have gotten a penalty there.
Yeah, for sure.
No swirling winds, Jim.
What
swirling?
What? Well, to be fair, like we didn't even attempt a field goal.
yeah, exactly. We had some pretty decent punts too.
Yeah, man. Thorson, he punted twice.
Twice, yeah.
He looked good there. I will say, okay. So it was actually on the same drive as the boom MFer, right? That was the one where we went for it on fourth down and we had the long pass play where, okay, so Stetson, we get him to jump off sides. We had the free play, throws it to Brock Bowers. Like at that point, like I was kind of questioning why we weren't kicking the field goal because that was in Jackpot's range. So I actually do question if that was the swirling winds factor as to why we were going for it and not kicking on that play. So there could have been one that just didn't show up.
Right.
That's my only theory.
I don't really have a whole lot on this game, man. It really does feel like I really would have loved to have seen. Oh, I do have something.
Okay.
The play was it the second quarter? Was it? I can't remember. Whenever they kicked their field goal, like it was at a spot in the field where I think even Gary, like someone was asking, like, "Hey, do you go for it here?" We had built up kind of a big lead, and I am convinced that he kicked the field goal as a moral victory, so that they at least put points on the board because I don't think that they've never been shut out in this game or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And he put the points on the board so that they wouldn't have the ominous number of being goose egged on this game.
Okay, true. Yeah, I do remember you actually texted that. I remember that now. Yeah, no, that's true. Because to that point, like nothing had gone there. I mean, we were totally dominating at that point.
Yeah. It felt like that the game was getting out of hand, and I was a little surprised. I felt like that they probably should have gone for it, but he decided to kick the field goal, try to take the points, and I felt like he was waving a white flag at that point, which. The way that things were going, that's what I expected. I think that I was like, well, the shutout. I think when that happened, I was like, well, the shutout's gone, but we can still basically shut them out.
yeah. Little did we know what was coming, but then we turned it back around.
Yeah.
Well, I know. Did you watch any other games? Like, did you watch any of Kentucky in Tennessee?
I watched a little bit. I think that when I finally got back to the house, got the kids in bed and all that kind of stuff, like sat down. I think Tennessee was up 20-6 or something like that at that point when I sat down. I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
And then I saw Will Levis throw an interception, like when they look like that they might be mounting up an attempt to try to come back. And as soon as Will Levis threw that interception, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah. I stayed up, but it made me change the channel. Kim and I were sitting. We had the fire going still on the back porch, so we just kept sitting out there and we were watching that. And we turned over for shout out Hunter. We watched the Ole Miss A&M game instead, which was a much better game and Ole Miss came out on top. Which I don't know if you've seen this. That game was one. People make fun of us about our apparel talk and uniform stuff, but Lane Kiffin changed his hoodie at halftime, and that turned that game around.
It was an impact play.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've definitely been sitting here like trying not to compare things to the next game. I'm ready to turn the page. I'm ready to move on. And I'm ready to talk about what's going to be the biggest matchup ever in the history of Sanford Stadium ranking wise. Well, I will have to put some glasses on it, but I mean it's at this point it's 1 versus 2. I don't know that that's ever happened. So we'll do some research and see maybe some fun facts for the next one. I think it's only the third time in SEC history that it's ever happened for a league game. So it's gonna be a big one. I will say programming note on that one. With Monday night being Halloween, we are going to record a little bit later in the week. So it'll be similar to last week. So the Tennessee preview should be out by Thursday morning. Kind of similar timing, same timing actually as to what we had for the Florida preview last week. So just a heads up on that.
Yep.
Cool. Lasting parting final thoughts for you, JP?
Lasting FTMF. That's all I've got to say. You know what? We won. I think we posted a video on the Dog Central Instagram page about the half empty stadium, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happened.
Love it. FTMF.
Awesome, man. Well, it was fun, but I think that everybody was playing this game with an eye to the next week. So
yeah,
I just hope and pray that the one thing that didn't happen that I was hoping for was to get to our depth, and it seemed like that we took some injuries. Nolan Smith, we didn't talk about Nolan Smith. That part of the third quarter problems probably stemmed from Nolan Smith not being around, because it felt like that we lost him, and we lost a lot when he went out. So
we didn't talk a lot about it. I did say though that we didn't look the same once he went down, and so we need to get him back. Much needed.
We need him back. I think that I've seen now 2-3 games of offense without AD Mitchell. If you are a wide receiver that is of high caliber talent, there are opportunities at the University of Georgia. I think that there's a big drop off after our starters, and it's kind of frustrating. With Arian Smith not being 100%, AD Mitchell not being 100%. Ladd's kind of dropped off a little bit here. Roseby looks like a player. Kieris, I think we talked about it beforehand, when he's getting targets. I need to see more from the wide receiver core. We've got guys that can play, but for whatever reason, they're just not playing up to what they need to.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, man, I think that's going to be injuries. Making sure that we're as healthy as we can be for this next game is what I'm going to be looking for.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. All right. Well, looking forward to that. We can turn the page, and I don't know. I'll talk to you later in the week when we get back together to preview Tennessee.
Absolutely, man. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.